Hi, movie fans, and welcome back to another episode of the Uncharted Media Podcast. This is episode 108. I'm excited for this one. I think this is going to be a really, really fun episode. So it is Thanksgiving this Thursday, and I had a weird train of thought with this, but go with me. Thanksgiving is food, but it is also football. When I hear football, I think fantasy sports. We like to fantasy project future movie projects, so we thought, let's go ultimate fantasy picks here of, we are a studio executive. We get free reign of anything. IPs, actors, you name it. If we could make a movie, money's no object, what would be our fantasy picks? We've got what movie it would be, who our director is, and who the actors would be, or at least one of the actors. I enjoy this type of stuff, so I'm really looking forward to this one. Michael, how are you doing this week?
I'm doing very well. Thank you very much for asking. I do appreciate it. It's a privilege to be here once again, and happy Thanksgiving to all of you movie fans out there. I hope and wish you guys nothing but the best. Safe travels and well wishes to you all as you gather together and feast. And hopefully, like me, you can count on another somewhat normal Thanksgiving watching the Detroit Lions lose again. So even though it's a weird 2020 year, there's one thing we can count on is them losing. So there you go.
They say in Field of Dreams, the one constant through all the years, Ray, has been baseball. While there's a second constant, Ray, it's that the Detroit Lions will always suck on Thanksgiving.
Yes, they will.
But Michael, I know you specifically were like, we got to make sure that we etch out some time this week so I can talk about The Hunt for Red October.
Yes. So my father and I, we were able to watch it, and we did it over this past weekend on Friday night. And my gosh, it was great. What a fantastic throwback. So to cover the whole idea of like what have we been watching, that was such a good movie. Great role for Sean Connery. And a lot of other actors that I honestly have since forgotten. But, I will say that the casting for Jack Ryan, and you know who that is, who they casted for that, right?
John Krasinski, right?
No, not,
not
not
for
the Hunt
version.
for Red October. Yeah, not that Jack Ryan.
For Hunt for Red October, is that one Harrison Ford?
No.
Oh, that's Ben Affleck, isn't it?
Ben Affleck?
Ben Affleck, oh no, Ben Affleck is Clear and Present Danger. No, which one was Ben Affleck in? Ben Affleck
he was in The Sum of All Fears.
That one. I knew he was in at least one of them.
Yeah, Alec Baldwin was cast as Jack Ryan.
Was he in multiple, or was it just this one?
Just that one, for good reason too. I think it's really it's not a very charismatic performance like Harrison Ford and Ben Affleck will have portrayed him as later on in the 90s. But still, I think it's actually probably overall one of the better Jack Ryan's, even though it's actually not even fully about him necessarily. But a funny movie, very compelling. So glad I finally found it. And then I will end this what I've been watching as I revisited Ocean's 11 this week, and just a lot of subtlety in that film, a lot of subtle humor, and I have to say I really appreciated rewatching it. I haven't seen it in probably a decade, so that's what I've been watching. What's been tickling your fancy here as of late?
Well, I got two. I got a really great one and a laughably bad one. Which do you want to hear first?
Please save the bad one for last.
Okay, the great one. My expectations were pretty high for this movie already because I was hearing great things about it. But it's even better than I thought. Was a movie called Freaky, starring Catherine Newton from Detective Pikachu and Vince Vaughn. So Vince Vaughn is a serial killer that when he goes to kill Catherine Newton's teenage girl character, they swap bodies. So now Catherine Newton is trapped in Vince Vaughn's body and has 24 hours to kill him and switch back. Oh my gosh, I laughed so hard. But also some of the kills in this are brutal. It's by the same guy that did Happy Death Day. So it's kind of like a even further along version of Happy Death Day. Of like the type of humor that you got in the first Happy Death Day. But also, like Happy Death Day, there's a lot of really cool story elements that the movie implies, but the director, I don't think, realizes that he implies them. And the movie doesn't go that way. Like, at the beginning, there's a standard slasher movie opening scene of some teens get killed before the actual story can begin. But they're talking about the killer in the movie is called the Bayside Butcher, the Blissfield Butcher. They're talking about how he was around in the 70s or the 80s, or maybe that was an urban legend. And I'm thinking in the back of my mind, oh, is the killer killing people so he inherits that new body so he can keep killing forever and ever because he just swaps bodies when he needs a refresher. But no, the movie, I don't think the movie realized that that's something that they hinted at, and so they never bring it up again. I will say, though, I really, really enjoyed this movie a lot. I almost rolled out of my seat laughing so hard. So, minor spoilers for those that care, but I think, Michael, you of all people will appreciate this. So, when Vince Vaughn, who is currently the teenage girl trapped in a serial killer's body, she finally reaches her friends, and they understand what's happened. They're like, the whole town is looking for you. We have to disguise you. What disguise are we going to give you? They find a rubber fake Aaron Rodgers mask that they can't see out of. So I'll never be able to see Aaron Rodgers the same way again, seeing a big hulking Vince Vaughn with a smiling Aaron Rodgers mask on, just going, I can't see, and just running into everything imaginable. It's so stupid, but I couldn't help it. I'm like, this shouldn't work, but it is. Also, that would explain a lot about Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, well, that does sound. I mean, I don't even know what to think about that. What was the name for those of us wondering again? What was the name of the movie?
Freaky.
Freaky. Okay,
it's like
sounds like it. Honestly,
it's basically Freaky Friday meets Friday the 13th, but really, really funny.
What year did this come out?
It just came out last weekend.
Oh, okay.
It just came out. Now, the movie that came out in 2015, that I can't even say is like one of the worst movies I've ever seen. It's just, I was just staring at it the whole time going, what is this? Just why? I don't even know why I decided to watch it, but after about 15 minutes, just like, screw it. I've made it this far. I'm going to sit through it. That is 2015's Daniel Radcliffe and James McAvoy's Victor Frankenstein.
Oh, no. Oh, no. Okay.
It's not...
Yeah, I remember. It's not terrible, or
it's not the worst horror, like, classic monster remake I've ever seen, but it's like a game of telephone was played to the director about what happens in Frankenstein, and he heard it through, like, the fifth chain down, because, like, Igor, he's known for having his hump or whatever. That gets fixed in the first 15 minutes. That's an easily redeemable thing. We can fix that right up, because how dare Daniel Radcliffe be unattractive in a movie? Also, I don't think the director really implied this, but every male character in this movie feels like they're secretly in love with every other male character in this movie. Of like,
okay.
I don't think that was the undertones that they set. Yes, I understand that James Whale, who did Bride of Frankenstein, was a gay man as a director back in the day, who also did Invisible Man. But I don't think the subtext was there in the original Frankenstein. Also, I don't think it was there for every single person. This movie felt more like a discount Sherlock Holmes. And when I say that, basically any actor that either appeared in the Benedict Cumberbatch or the Robert Downey Jr. Sherlock Holmes was fair game to be in this movie. Right down to the villain is played by Andrew Scott Moriarty. Playing the exact same character, too.
Okay, so the silence there was on purpose. So how does this movie... Okay, I'm just trying to even picture what all this looks like. How does this movie compete with I, Frankenstein, for example?
I haven't seen I, Frankenstein yet. It's on my list. It's in my Hulu queue.
Oh, my gosh. You have to... Oh, my gosh. I mean, Heather will love that because it's a comedy. It truly is a comedy. You guys will love it for that very reason.
See, the issue that I had with Victor Frankenstein is they're like kind of wanted to do some they want to do some classic Frankenstein lore, but then not really. Of like, we only get to the castle in the last 5 minutes and it's totally unconsequential. Spoiler alert. Igor has a happy ending where he just is a normal person. He ends up getting married or with no hump or no slouch or whatever. they create a monster who has to be one of the worst, and I will include Aaron Eckhart's I, Frankenstein in this discussion, one of the worst Frankensteins I've ever seen. It's like if someone saw Hulk in the first Avengers movie and went, how do we make him look more human? And I think I may have emotional feelings for this Hulk character that I want to project onto Frankenstein because, like, there's some sexiness to Frankenstein, which I don't really want. Also, the final fight between Igor, whatever you want to say, and Victor fighting the monster felt like a video game boss, like a Resident Evil level. I'm like, this ain't it, Chief. However, this movie's terrible. I will at least acknowledge that they did have a young Frankenstein joke, so that's not all bad. They went out of their way to go, oh, you must be Mr. Frankenstein. It's Frankenstein. I was like, okay. You're still terrible, like, real bad. But also, like I said, Andrew Scott is the bad guy, as a detective just doing his job, but he's playing the exact same character from Sherlock. Mark Gatiss, a.k.a. Mycroft Holmes, is in this in a blink-and-you-miss-it cameo. Molly from Sherlock is in this. Some of the detectives from the Robert Downey Jr. Sherlock Holmes is in this. It's just like the guy was like a massive Sherlock Holmes fan, but was saddled with a Frankenstein script instead. And so he just was like, movie!
Hey, at least it got made. I'm glad it was entertaining, for better or for worse.
I feel like I wasted my time, but it wasn't like a total waste. Like The Happening, like it's just a misguided, I think is the perfect word for it. More than anything else.
What a name drop there. The Happening. Now that's a true comedy right there.
That's a wonderful comedy. Well, I wish we had happy things to talk about, but we've got nothing but sadness this week. More sadness. Actually, no, we've got some good topics to talk about, but kicking us off is one that we actually talked about a little bit last week when it was speculated, but now it's more or less confirmed, but in a different way than we expected. And that is that Wonder Woman 1984 is coming out on Christmas, like we figured it would, in both theaters and HBO Max on the same day. This is a big deal. And coincidentally, a few days after this news dropped, new rumors are spreading that Roku and HBO Max have worked out a deal. Coincidence? I think not. This is not good for movie theaters, but it's good for people that are excited for this movie. I know a lot of people going, I wanted to see this in theaters. I get that, but we've talked about for the past few weeks of the streaming wars are the future, and this is a strategic long-term investment on Warner Brothers and HBO Max's side of things. So I already told my parents, this is probably what we're going to watch on Christmas, assuming that it's on Roku by that point. If not, I'll just bring my Chromecast over to their house. It sucks, but I get why they're doing this, because this movie has been done forever now. So they just kind of needed to get it out at this point. What'll probably happen is, since I'm in an area that has theaters open, and every time I've gone to the theater, it has been a very safe, and I felt very comfortable in that environment, I will probably see this on Christmas Day on HBO Max with my family, and if I like it, I'll go back out and see it in theaters to support the movie further, because I always want to support my DC movies, but also just support the theatrical experience. We thought this was going to come out in theaters on Christmas and then be in theaters for like 2 weeks and then go to HBO Max. But no, they're coming out the same day, which I find super interesting. Michael, this is kind of like a part 2 to last week, isn't it?
Yeah, it definitely. It's one of those things that we, like you said, we've talked about, and it's inevitable. I'm so fortunate to say that. So none of this is surprising. For those of us who don't have HBO Max, no, I can always sign up for a free trial, of course. And I don't have.
I think a lot of people will be doing that.
Yeah, I don't have any Roku devices, but do we have like a expected date to where it will like release like VOD like for other platforms? Like, are we thinking maybe like February or something?
I am so glad you asked this because it's only going to be on HBO Max for a month, and then it's going to go on premium on demand, which I think is really, really odd. HBO Max has been really bizarre of its titles of like they launched with Harry Potter, all 8 Harry Potter movies, and then they quickly were like, sorry guys, bye. It's going to Peacock for a little bit. Now I don't think even Peacock has. I don't know if Peacock has it or not. But that was one of the heavily marketed things when they first coming out. Of we've got Harry Potter and now it's gone. It's like they're still working out the bugs as a lot of streaming services are. Remember when Disney Plus launched, a whole bunch of titles weren't there, like Black Panther or Ant-Man.
Yeah,
that won't be a problem in a few years from now when studios like definitively stick their stake in the ground. But this will be on HBO Max for a month. Then I believe it'll be solely in theaters or solely premium on demand for like $20, I think, and then it'll probably go back to HBO Max again.
Gotcha. Yeah, that sounds. I mean, that sounds right as far as a marketing plan. So I'm glad that you affirmed that. Yeah, I probably won't watch it right away. This whole year has kind of put a lot of my priorities, like for movies, for me, and this is going to be a slow adoption. Like if they're going to charge, premium, like streaming. On things, on top of the increase of a lot of these subscription services, with Netflix raising their prices, and Prime's yearly rate going up every year, it's going to be harder and harder to justify this $20 to $30 premium VOD, for at least in the interim, because they're like you have several theater options here before this whole mess of a 2020. And I could go see it because I never get concessions. I could see a movie for $6, and then you get the whole theater experience, the communal experience, which we've talked about, that you and I believe is incredibly special and we love. It'd be kind of hard for me to sit around unless I invite people over and they just give me a couple bucks. I don't think I'd be doing this individually. I hope it works out for them, but I'm with you. I think we're old souls as millennials. We value still the in person, and we're gonna fight against it as much as we can. And if we do have to get creative, like maybe signing up for a free trial to do it, I'm certainly willing to do that, but begrudgingly.
I still think there's a future for video on demand, for like premium video on demand, just not for us, because as it stands, it's just me and Heather, and then in your case, it's just you. But if it's like a family of 6 kids and 2 adults, that's 8 people for $20. That's definitely more affordable. I understand that. I think also they're sticking with this release date, one, because they've already shelled out so much money in the marketing because they've moved this so many times, but also there's still a lot of DC projects coming, and while this movie, since it's set in the 80s, doesn't need to necessarily fit in a chronological order like the MCU does with Black Widow and everything else, because I'm sure their timeline is all kinds of effed up right now, they still have a lot of projects that they have coming out. And if you keep slotting stuff down, there's eventually not going to be space for it. Like, just take DC out of the equation. Warner Bros. Has a bunch of other movies coming out. And so next year basically has, if things stand as they are right now, there is 2 years worth of movies coming out in 1 year next year. And so it's going to be harder and harder to find a good weekend and stretch of time by yourself at the box office to make the money that you would have. So I think HBO Max is just trying to think of how do we cut down our losses on this and try and make the best out of a bad situation and go, okay, we really need to invest in HBO Max. Disney's already at 70+ million subscribers for Disney Plus. We're not even close to that. And I think they are realizing they need content to draw people in. I think this is a strategic long-term move, even if it sucks in the short term.
That's interesting you bring that up, because I was under the impression that DC was going to delay some films, like I know Marvel has done. They have not delayed any of their films?
Oh, no, they have. Like The Suicide Squad, I think, is now coming August 2021, which bumped that like 3 months. It's more just the further down stuff. Like, we still have The Batman coming out, Shazam 2, Aquaman 2, hopefully without Amber Heard.
Yeah.
Black Adam. We've got all these major DC projects that will probably want to plant their flag somewhere that people around them won't compete for their attention for a while. And next year alone is going to have a lot of big name titles. So like, you could still be the big dog on campus, but you're not going to be as big as you were because you've got another big dog on campus riding your heels for that box office.
Oh, sure. Yeah, absolutely. Okay.
So, another movie that I genuinely thought we would not get any progress on this for a really long time, I thought this project may or may not have been dead in the water, is Deadpool 3. I thought that with the acquisition of Fox by Disney, I thought we would be in limbo for a really long time with Deadpool. I just didn't know what the future of it would be because Deadpool is a hard R-rated franchise. I enjoy the franchise, but it doesn't necessarily fit into what Kevin Feige has built. Well, might have been wrong about that, as it seems like Deadpool 3 now has its own writers, the writers of Bob's Burgers. Now, I'll be honest, I've never seen Bob's Burgers. I know a lot of people rave about it. I've never seen it. I'm more just surprised that we have writers that Ryan Reynolds has brought on and seemingly approved by Marvel. The question still to me is this in a pocket universe separate from the MCU? Is this going to be in the MCU? I don't know. I think had Deadpool not had two incredibly successful R-rated movies already, this would be a lot easier of a decision for Kevin Feige, because I've always been under the impression that Deadpool could work as a PG-13, but so you've already set the precedent, and people have come to expect that Deadpool will be rated R, and that's fine. People will be like, Deadpool doesn't work as PG-13. Look at Once Upon a Deadpool when they re-released Deadpool 2 in theaters and made it a PG-13 version. That didn't work because you were trying to fit a circle into a square peg, basically. Circle, peg into a square hole, basically, of you're trying to shoehorn a R-rated movie into a PG-13 construct. If you go making a PG-13 from the offset, you can probably do that. I've said from the get-go, even before the first Deadpool came out, I think it'd be even funnier if, whenever he tries to swear, there's an omniscious, all-knowing censor beep that either covers his mouth or straight up bleeps him. I think it'd be even funnier if it covers his mouth because he's already got a mask. So what would be the point of the... But it would make it funny. And then he could just look at the camera and go, oh, right, the mouse owns my butt now. Or something like that. I'm still questioning if this will be in the MCU. I know a lot of people are like, oh, but I want him to cross over with Spider-Man or the X-Men in the MCU. I'm like, it's not that simple. But cool. I like the franchise so far, and I do want to see it continue. It's just a matter of how.
Yeah, I think like the idea of self-awareness, breaking the fourth wall, I think that's something they absolutely can use to their advantage here, and use it to great effect, because you can still tell the stories that have the same themes, and you can really push the boundaries of PG-13 nowadays more than you could 5-6 years ago. And with the creativity being a little bit, a little more free reign on these, at least traditionally, I don't think this is an issue at all. It'll just, again, kind of, actually, because it being a third film, it will actually make it feel fresh. It won't feel like just a second repeat, because people would know if this was still in Fox, okay, and it was the second sequel, the third movie in the trilogy, and people would kind of know what to expect as far as jokes and humor. And is like the crudeness and the violence and stuff. There wouldn't be really any surprises. This way, it seems like you get some surprises, possibly. I think they would actually, if I was a betting man, I would put on the fact that they do not put this in the universe, or if they do, they make fun of the fact that he's in that universe now and he has to play by their rules. Hence, maybe the whole PG-13 censored thing. And maybe he can joke about not being happy about it. It adds another layer to the film that people would love. And again, it's self-aware. So I think this is good news for Deadpool fans. I don't think they have any. I understand their reason to lament, but I don't think there'll be any reason to once the movie comes out. I think it'll be justified in that.
Yeah, I don't see them bringing him into the MCU because even if you now make him PG-13 in the MCU, you'll have kids that are meeting him for the first time because they only watch MCU movies going, well, where did Deadpool come from? I want to learn more about him. And then they'll want to go back and watch the first two Deadpools, which are hard R. It doesn't really, like, it works for us adults, but for kids, there's a lot of kids that watch the MCU. I would not encourage kids to see the Deadpool movies. I know some parents let them. I wouldn't, because there's a lot of mature stuff in that. And that's fine. That's the character of Deadpool. Do I think Deadpool's a little over the top at times and a little bit of an overrated character? Sure, but I still enjoy him. But he is definitely not an MCU. I don't want to say MCU worthy, but like MCU appropriate character.
Sure.
I still would like to see more of him, and I've heard some fun ideas of at the end of Deadpool 2 when he tries to go back in time and undo all the bad stuff, and he kills Ryan Reynolds' Green Lantern and all that fun stuff. Maybe people are like, well, maybe if he went back in time, he changed the timeline, and now he is in the MCU, and we're like, that'd be fun, but I don't think that's part of Kevin Feige's plan, which don't you mess with Kevin Feige's plan. I feel like you're going to end up missing if someone messes with Kevin Feige's plan, because we know he likes to map things out, except for, the next Spider-Man movie, which I still don't think it's fully mapped out, but that's a rant for another day. Overall, I think this is good. This is the first solid progress we've had on Deadpool 3 in a very long time, because I'm trying to remember when the second one even came out. Like 2016, 2017? Do you remember, Michael?
2017, I believe. I mean, I can look that up real quick. That's no problem. But, while I'm doing so, I remember actually how excited you and Josh were back in school. Deadpool, first one was 2016, Deadpool 2 was 2018.
Okay.
But how excited you guys were for it, and I didn't go and see it. I just personally not a movie that I was interested in. But as a fan that you see this happening going forward, are you happy regardless, or are you reserved at all?
I'm a little reserved, just because the big factor of how this has been is Ryan Reynolds has been so instrumental to this franchise, and I know he's not going anywhere anytime soon, but like he has fostered this franchise so much and cares about so much, and I don't see anything going bad under his watch. But at the same time, it's just like, we have a good thing going here. Switching hands might not be the best thing. It's just saying change can either be good or bad. You never know. I don't know. Ryan Reynolds, so long as he is still attached, I will remain optimistic because he cares about Deadpool. So as long as he's still involved to some degree, I'll remain optimistic. I'm not optimistic or pessimistic at this point. I'm just uncertain of what to make of this news.
I gotcha. Yeah. I understand your hesitancy, and I think my hesitancy will match yours with our next story here. Honestly,
believe it or not, I am actually more optimistic about this one than you might be. So the Predator franchise has been beaten and kicked and tossed around and disregarded for a while, and some people out there, I am not one of them, but some people out there would say that the only good Predator movie is the first one, to which I will vehemently argue with you that 2011's Predator with Adrian Brody is awesome, and Alien vs. Predator really isn't that bad either. But now we seem to be getting a new Predator movie from 10 Cloverfield Lane director Dan Trachtenberg. Now, because this is me, and I have to always throw that out there, of the 6 degrees of separation between whatever we're talking about and Uncharted, at this point last year, Dan Trachtenberg was still on track to direct the Uncharted movie. He was the last director to leave the project before we have the director that we have now, that finished production with Ruben Fleischer. Just as soon as I saw Dan Trachtenberg, I was like, oh, you're the Uncharted guy that left for creative differences. I should know him from 10 Cloverfield Lane. Good movie. I'm optimistic about this because I liked 10 Cloverfield Lane, but also there is nowhere to go but up. I didn't hate 2018's Predator, but also it wasn't great by any stretch at all, and a lot of people hated it. I'm indifferent, primarily because, to me, Predator franchise it's fine. It's fun. Um, it's never anything special to me. I just didn't grow up with it. I watched it late. Even the original Predator, I think, is a fun movie, but nothing spectacular except for some fantastic creature design. But I think this is a good thing overall. I'm more than anything shocked that Disney is moving so quickly on this, because this is one of those franchises that they acquired when they bought 20th Century Fox. And I thought they'd be leaving this dormant for a little bit, because Predator is a bit like Terminator at this point. They keep trying every couple of years, insisting, this will be the one that fixes it, and it's not. Not all of them are bad. Like I said, I like 2011's Predator, but I don't think the name Predator is as strong of a box office draw as it used to be. However, I think there is one ingredient that could theoretically get butts back into seats, and after I say it, I'll toss it over to you, Michael. I think there's one bullet left in the chamber for the Predator franchise that they could theoretically salvage themselves with. Say it with me, everybody. Arnie coming back as Dutch.
Yeah.
It's not unprecedented. Jamie Lee Curtis coming back for Halloween. Neve Campbell coming back for Scream. Robert Englund coming back in some capacity for some story we'll talk about later. It is now a cool thing for actors to come back to franchises that they were once attached to. I bet you anything Arnie comes back for this movie as Dutch in some capacity.
Yeah, that would be certainly interesting. Obviously, it's reprisals as the Terminator. He is 72. He's not getting any younger, so this would be a time to do it. That would be very interesting. I don't know, in the same way that the Alien franchise could use Sigourney Weaver again, and not used in a horrible, bitter way. I'm bitter about the Predator franchise and Alien franchises the same. I'll stay on topic here, but I'm not really hopeful. But I will say you are 100% right. If that is the final bullet in the chamber and they fire that particular storyline out there, I'd be 100% on board. But I'm not going to react to hypotheticals at this point, because I really think the Predator franchise has been done pretty bad. I had fun with Predators with Adrian Brody. I did have fun with it. It's just that it's a genre just ill-defined, or at least a movie franchise very, very ill-defined. But I really do like the first one. It has a lot of, it's creepy. It is, I think, genuinely scary. The creature design is hideous, and I think that adds to it. And it harkens back to an era that just movie magic. It had just something about it. There was like that X factor with all of the cast, and I just haven't gotten that since. But Arnold was a big part of it. So I don't know. Like, here's to hoping.
Which, at this point right now, which franchise do you think needs the CPR worse? The Predator franchise or the Alien franchise? Which franchise do you think is in a worse state?
Oh, 100% Alien. Predator has been less carefree, has been more carefree for good reason. Alien franchise unfortunately has been ruined a lot and scattered a lot by its own creator, Ridley Scott. Mm-hmm. I love the way Ridley Scott's films look. They're shot so amazingly well. They have some of the best effects, but the storyline is just all over the place. And I'm a sucker for xenomorph. I'm a sucker for any sci-fi or aliens, any sort of extraterrestrial uses in film. I absolutely love. But Alien is on life support, and that whole thing just happens me, to be honest. But Predator, I'm rather indifferent to. But the first one, come on, let's bring back the magic. And maybe if your theory's right, maybe the Fox merger can also bring back Alien in a good way too.
I've told you this for many years, but I'll say it for our listeners. I think number one for Alien is, it's going to suck for Alien fans to hear this, but the number one thing you need right now is nothing. You need time away doing absolutely nothing. You need, absence makes the heart grow fonder. You need to be away from this franchise long enough for people to miss it again. Like, again, I just said it earlier, but Halloween, the reason why Halloween 2018 works so well is the last Halloween movie before was in 2009, and the last good one was in 1998. So there was this long gap of people not getting the Halloween that they really, really wanted. So for Alien, unfortunately, right now, you've got to go a long way, I think, without it for a little bit for people to care about it again. I'm optimistic about this Predator thing, and maybe. So here's where my craziness comes in. Got the tinfoil hat at the ready. I wouldn't be surprised if this goes well, if we do see a relaunch of Alien following on the heels of it shortly after, and they kind of put the option back on the table for Alien versus Predator, but not just plop it on the table, but actually build it like an Avengers type movie of actual build up. Because while I don't mind Alien vs. Predator, the first one, there's a lot of money to be made with those franchises, I think, in a build-up event. I would not be surprised, knowing how Disney operates, if that's not something that they're at least considering is not a remake of it, but recrossing the streams, if you will, on those franchises in the long, long, long term.
Yeah, that I think by like 2030 for sure, and I think that's the problem though, is that time, if you want to bring back these beloved actors, is not on their side. Arnold being 73, Sigourney Weaver being 71, not talking about with effects and makeup and everything, and we're potentially with where are things going here in the future when it comes to digital recreations and resurrections. Like I'm really ethically challenged on that one. But there is something to be said about having the real actor there doing the on set, interacting in the same way, and you can use a lot of doubles to cover a lot of the action stuff, of course, a lot of the stunts. Like that's not what I'm saying. I want these actors to be alive to reprise their roles in these beloved franchises, because I think it will help. I mean, they've been trying to do it, at least with Sigourney Weaver, for a very long time without any success. But part of that's been Ridley Scott, because he's not wanting to tell that story. So I hope maybe in the distant future, if Disney holds their cards right, they don't like to do anything with any half effort, right? Because they want to be able to maximize profit.
Well,
and they
unless
realize,
it's the sequel trilogy.
Yeah, but they did make a lot of money, though. That's
it shattered the franchise in half until Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni came back and goes.
Came back. Well, the thing is, they learned from their mistake there. I mean, they realized that
they need to fire Kathleen Kennedy.
Well, I would say that they knew it's unfortunate for a studio to be self-aware, because they knew people were going to see them regardless. So their incentive is less than in a franchise like this that doesn't make a lot of money. So since they have them and they want to produce a film, they'll want to be very sure to put out a quality film, because they have a lot of data to go on what happens when you don't make a quality film with like the previous 8 films in these total franchises combined.
I'm not gonna lie, this next news story is probably the one I'm most excited to talk about today, and it's also the most out of left field, but not out of left field, and I'll explain why for both. The Lego Movie directors Phil Lord and Chris Miller are apparently in talks to direct a Universal monster movie starring Channing Tatum. So my initial reaction is, okay, it's Lord and Miller. This movie has to be a comedy, right? Like, they're the comedy guys. Lego Movie, great. Love both the Jump Street movies. Love the First Quality with a Chance of Meatballs. So this has to be a comedy, right? Also, as soon as you say the words Universal Monsters, don't care, I'm there in a heartbeat. That's just my thing. I've even seen the Benicio del Toro Wolfman. I love it. It's not that bad. Just the CGI is awful, but the rest of the movie's not that bad. And I don't think Channing Tatum's that bad of an actor, especially working with Lord and Miller. Like, to me, he was just a teenage heartthrob, whatever, in a lot of movies until I saw him in Jump Street, in which case, oh my gosh, it's been a long time since someone made me laugh as hard as he did. Especially, there's one scene in 22 Jump Street. For those that know it, when he finds out what Jonah Hill's been doing with the captain's daughter, oh my gosh, legitimately had tears in my eyes from laughing so hard the first time I saw that in theaters. Jonah Hill and Channing Tatum have great chemistry. Now, I have a theory. It's just a theory as to what movie that might be. But before I get into that and hold you all in suspense, Michael, you see that the Lego Movie guys are doing a Universal Monster movie with the guy from Magic Mike. What you thinking?
Well, I mean, it's certainly interesting ensemble so far, not unlike what we're going to talk about later with our creations for this week. I do enjoy any good monster film. I'm a sucker for that as well. So I'm already interested just as much as you are. Universal Monsters, okay. I'm already intrigued. And then you put on qualified actor or qualified directors. Okay, good. All right, this is getting better. And then an actor that is capable. Okay, even better. Now for me, I'm sold so far. I will continue listening. If I was in the pitch meeting, I would say so and so. Please continue. You have my full and undivided attention. Now, depends on what they're trying to pitch, though. Now you have like the actual content, which is unknown. We don't know what they're pitching, which is I bet what you're going to try to hold me in suspense for, because my question to you, Nate, is what are they most likely to do? I don't know that universe as well as you do, so like you're going to have to sell me on the content here.
I know a lot of people will go to the obvious of like, maybe it's a Frankenstein movie or a Dracula. We can't do Invisible Man because we just did that. And I said it wasn't surprising because Universal, since Invisible Man did so well, they're just like, you'll get a monster movie, you get a monster movie, you get a monster movie. But unlike the Tom Cruise The Mummy, which is the worst movie of 2017, I hate that movie so much, it's so bad. Unlike that, they're not trying to make these movies connected anymore. It's basically, if there's a talented director with a good movie, sure, you can make this movie. Like we're getting a new Dracula movie by Karen Kusama, who did Jennifer's Body. There's rumors of John Krasinski doing a Brides of Dracula movie. I'm okay with this. And I'll tell you who I think they're doing. I don't think they're going with any of the conventional Universal monsters. I think this is going to be a Jekyll and Hyde movie. I would not be surprised if Channing Tatum is a Mr. Hyde type character, the good-looking serial killer type, to a maybe like a Jonah Hill type Dr. Jekyll. Of he drinks this potion and becomes the good-looking Channing Tatum, but when he does, one, it freaks him out, and there's where the comedy comes in, but also he's got this bloodlust. I can see Channing Tatum as a villain. He went to a very dark place for Foxcatcher, which, spoiler alert, Foxcatcher will not be the last time we talk about that. This will not be the last time we talk about Foxcatcher today in this episode. I like Channing Tatum as an actor. I just think this is going to be an unconventional pick for them. When I saw this, it's racked my brain for a little bit going, what would they do? And then the more I look at Channing Tatum and the reputation that is Channing Tatum, and I go, I just smell Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde here. It's a franchise or story that we haven't heard in a while. It's one of the often overlooked Universal monsters. And I think there's a lot of interesting, both dark, but also comedic elements that you can glean from that. If nothing else, Lord and Miller are excellent with comedy. There's nothing to base this on. This is just my out of left field pick. I just see Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde for some reason in this.
Yeah, that's very intriguing, and something that I'd be interested in. I can see that particular role. I mean, because honestly, when was the last time we saw Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde like portrayed in film or any small screen?
Oh gosh, it's been a very long time.
Was it honestly The League of Extraordinary Gentlemen?
Oh, that I don't know what movie you're talking about. That movie doesn't exist.
That's funny. I mean, that's the only time. Of course, he was like a Hulk type of creature there. I guess I don't know a whole lot.
Oh no, he was in Van Helsing. He was in Van Helsing.
Oh, was he? Okay. Well, who is the? I mean, I guess Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde. Like, what is? I know the lore, but he doesn't actually turn into like a monster, does he? Like, what's the?
He basically, like, when he drinks the potion, he becomes a separate. It's basically Hulk before Hulk, except instead of getting angry, it's whenever he drinks the potion, and he has no memory of being Mr. Hyde, basically. Also, for those that remember, it created that traumatizing episode of Arthur with the library episode. Jekyll, Jekyll, hi, Jekyll, hi, hi, Jekyll, 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 hi, Jekyll, hi.
That is, are you talking about the TV show with Arthur?
Yeah, man, that episode was terrifying.
Oh, I don't
That's the one when Brain...
I wasn't the biggest Arthur.
Oh, yeah, that's when Brain gets a library card and discovers horror.
Oh, that's interesting. I don't remember that. Sorry, I was more of a Zoom-boomafoo fan myself.
See, Zoom or Zaboomafoo?
Interesting. Zaboomafoo, Animal Junction,
yeah,
Zabu the lemur.
You were breaking up a little bit, so I couldn't tell if you said Zaboomafoo or Zoom, because both of them are great.
I'm sorry about that. Sorry.
But yeah, I see
wonderful internet.
I see Jekyll and Hyde in this, because everything else is kind of being in some form of development. Like I said, Dracula's coming. Some form of a Frankenstein is coming. Some form of a Bride of Frankenstein is coming. And unfortunately, we're not getting a Guillermo del Toro Creature from the Black Lagoon, as much as I desperately want that, because there's no one more qualified than he, even though he already made The Shape of Water, which is basically the Creature from the Black Lagoon. Now,
which that by the way, I've never seen that, so I would love to see, because like the Creature of the Black Lagoon, like that is due for, oh my gosh, I would see that in a heartbeat if they remade that right now.
A movie that I have no desire to see, but at the same time, it's like watching a car wreck. You can't look away. And I'll explain why in a little bit. But we got our only trailer this week is for a movie called Chaos Walking, which, if I just told you the stars, you'd be like, oh, wow, that's going to be a big movie. You've got Tom Holland, Daisy Ridley, Mads Mikkelsen, and then I tell you, yeah, this movie's coming out next year. But guess what? It was filmed in 2017. Oh boy. Yeah, guys, Tom Holland and Daisy Ridley are in this. Tom Holland filmed this after Spider-Man Homecoming, and Daisy Ridley filmed this after Star Wars The Last Jedi. This is how long this movie has been actually done, because according to early reports, I think this movie was supposed to come out in like 2018 or 2019, but according to the people on set and in production, the original cut of this movie was unwatchable. So knowing everything about this movie going into it and how many production issues it's had, I was trying to be as open-minded as I could. But as soon as I saw the trailer pop up, I was like, oh yeah, is that Nightmare movie? That Nightmare production movie? Let's see if it's as much of a train wreck as I anticipate it will be. I watched the trailer and it doesn't look awful, but it was so hard to detach myself from the issues that I know this movie is known for, of like basically scrapping it and starting from the ground up all over again, of like they had to bring back a whole bunch of people and those actors did not look like they did before. As a trailer, I didn't think it was bad. To me, it kind of looked like a Netflix movie from the trailer. And I was really trying not to think about all the issues that I know this movie has. Even with that, I thought the trailer was just bizarre, but we needed to talk about it because this movie's gonna be a trip. I can tell you that now. But Michael, you've seen the trailer for Chaos Walking with two of the biggest names in Hollywood right now. What you thinking?
Yeah, the screenshots you have here are more interesting than what I watched earlier, and so
there's at least a dog here.
Yeah, I mean, which is really funny considering the tone. It looks like they're teaming up to go on an adventure, not a post-apocalyptic Earth, and dream like everyone could read each other's thoughts. And Daisy Ridley's the only female. It's like
with a terrible wig.
It's always based on always a best-selling book series. Like, yeah, okay. Listen, I'm not going to see it. I wasn't going to see it anyway. This isn't going to make me see it unless, honestly, unless you tell me to go see it. I'm not going to see it. It's that simple. It wasn't very much impressed. I'm not really interested in the plot at all. And really, I mean, that's just my thoughts on that. I don't really have anything more or less to say. It's like, development hell for X amount of years. Like you said, shot 3 years ago. Even if when people are just putting it out begrudgingly because like, hey, we want to see if we can't make a little bit of money.
New Mutants.
I'm not going to be a confident consumer. So I'll let you sacrifice for the rest of us.
Dude, I ain't seeing this in theaters. I'm waiting until this hits like somewhere that's free, like Tubi or TNT. I don't even think streaming services will want that. Streaming services will want content. I don't think this is one that they'll want. They'll be like, no thanks, we'll pass. We'd rather have New Mutants than you. And that right now that's saying something. I will say at least the visual component of seeing Tom Holland's thoughts like around his head, that looked interesting. But this, as a premise, does not work for me. And I was so distracted, as I have been in the set photos and everything else, of how bad Daisy Ridley's wig looks. It looks just wonky. And I'm going, you've got some interesting people in this movie. You got Tom Holland, Daisy Ridley, Mads Mikkelsen. There's some interesting names attached to this. But it's so hard to remove myself from all the issues and problems that we've heard about this movie. If it was good, this movie would have come out 2 years ago. That's New Mutants bad, but oh boy. Well, for our last news topic, I almost didn't put this in the notes, but it's still worth talking about, especially considering I'm sure a lot of you out there are a huge Stranger Things fan, as I am as well. Well, most of the season. Season 2, I wish never happened, but it redeemed itself with Season 3. Stranger Things is very much a love letter to 80s movies, TV, all things 80s. And they've done so with casting famous actors from the 80s. You had Sean Astin, who was in The Goonies. You had Carrie Elwes in Princess Bride. Well, now add Freddy Krueger himself, Robert Englund, in a new role in Stranger Things Season 4. He supposedly will be playing in like a mentally insane person that killed a bunch of people. I actually, as much of a horror fan as I am, I have never seen any of the Nightmare on Elm Streets. Just don't have any desire. I've seen every Friday the 13th. I've seen all the Halloweens. Freddy Krueger just don't do it for me. That being said, I got excited reading this because horror is often stigmatized as if you are a well-known actor in the horror genre, it is very hard for you to break into the mainstream as a credible actor for whatever reason. People seem to think because you're in a horror movie, no matter what the horror movie is, that you are a B+ level actor at best. So I appreciate when filmmakers go, no, I liked you from something. Let's put you in here. I've seen Robert Englund in interviews. He seems like a wonderful, pleasant individual, and he is desperate to come back for another Nightmare on Elm Street. And there's been talk of them doing it. It's just a little complicated because the rights to the franchise belong with Wes Craven's estate ever since he passed away, so they're kind of working through those issues. I think this is really, really cool. I'm happy for the guy. I'm not the biggest Nightmare on Elm Street fan, but anytime classic horror or horror icons get recognized, I'm okay with that, and I'm a fan of that. I appreciate that, and the Duffer Brothers, I think, have done a good job of that. Michael, I don't think we've ever talked about it. Have you seen Stranger Things?
I watched the first season out off of a recommendation from a friend, and I watched it in one night. I started watching it at 8 o'clock, and I didn't go to bed till about 4 a.m. That was a very long day at work the next day.
Yeah.
But I couldn't put it down. I watched the first episode of season 2, and I have not watched Stranger Things since.
Yeah, just skip to season 3. Trust me, season 3 is awesome. Season 2 was awful.
I have not gone back. This, though, makes complete sense. It's funny that you're saying that this guy who just played Freddy is playing the same person who killed people, so apparently he's just playing Freddy.
Well, except
So
apparently he
like,
killed him in real life and not in the dream world. So there's a little bit of a difference.
yeah, I mean, maybe he's that way in the Upside Down. I have no idea that, but I think it's pretty great. I mean, a great addition to this show. People will love it. Nothing but good things to say here. After that, I'm happy that this will continue, and I wish them nothing but success. Is season 5, is that coming next fall?
Season 4. It's season 4. They're filming it right now.
Season 4.
They're filming it right now,
Okay.
I believe. So that brings me to a secondary question attached to this. I know you haven't seen a lot of it, but they bring in older actors like I said, Cary Elwes, Sean Astin, Winona Ryder.
Mm-hmm.
If you had your pick of like those either obscure actors from the 80s or actors that might not be as big as they were in the 80s for Stranger Things in some role, is there any names that stick out to you? Like for me, Jamie Lee Curtis. I love me some Jamie Lee Curtis in whatever she's in. Or Danielle Harris from Halloween's 4 and 5. They already had Cary Elwes. I love me some Cary Elwes. Any 80s names that stick out to you if you would like to see on the show?
I mean, it would be interesting to throw like a Sigourney Weaver out there. I mean, I think that'd be hilarious.
She's the same character she was in Holes. Let's do that.
Yeah, exactly. Just throw her as a conspiracy theorist as well. Maybe throw in the fact that she was once abducted by aliens or something. Like, you just have a little more fun with it, and have her somewhat connected through the story that way. I think of maybe you can take maybe an actor star, for example. His name is eluding me right now. Just a second. He was in Predator, and he's in Carl Weathers. Like, throw Carl Weathers out there.
Carl Weathers would be a great name.
Yeah,
Carl Weathers and Dolph Lundgren.
The people like that. It's right. Jean-Claude Van Damme, please.
Ooh, that'd be fun. The weird thing is, like, I like Stranger Things, but the thing I'm most excited about for season 4 is they've already announced that one of the characters, his part-time job that he has, is working at a Family Video, to which I'm just going, yay, Family Video, my happy place. Say the video store, people. Family Video is awesome. With that said, our sponsor this week, I don't know. No sponsor this week because I'm just too excited to go into our main discussion because I've been thinking about this all week. I really have, because it's so much fun. So again, think of this like fantasy sports. We have our top picks of like a movie project that we would like to see, a director that we would like to see do it, and maybe some names to be in it. I'm going to start with the big elephant in the room that I have been standing on my rooftop yelling and screaming for years, and I will continue to yell and scream. And also, since it's our picture, I feel like I'll get the elephant out of the way now. With the first pick in our movie fantasy draft, I select Superman, the Man of Steel, directed by Brad Bird and starring one Henry Cavill. I debated between Superman, the Man of Steel, and Superman, Man of Tomorrow for a name for this. But we just got an animated movie called The Man of Tomorrow a few months ago, and it was fine. A little awkward because there's a lot of awkward pauses of like, it felt like there should have been music in the background, but there wasn't. It's a good movie. But I think with Superman, the Man of Steel, or the Man of Steel Superman, however you want to name it, you could theoretically still say the Zack Snyder movies did in fact happen, but I would kind of do it as a semi-reboot. Plus, I have been saying for a very, very long time, and it's its own separate video if you want to check it out, Brad Bird is responsible for one of my favorite movies of all time, The Iron Giant, which I still to this day say is the best Superman movie ever made. It's about a ultimate weapon that comes from another planet that's adopted by a local farm family that has to learn what his powers are and learn about the world that he's sent to. And basically chooses to be a hero in spite of everything. He even reads Superman comics. He's a Superman archetype, whether he realizes it or not, making the ultimate sacrifice like Superman. And what are his last words before he makes his ultimate sacrifice? Superman. Even take Iron Giant out of the equation. Brad Bird is a phenomenal director. The Incredibles, Ratatouille, my favorite of the Mission Impossibles, Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol. I love this guy as a director. Sure, Tomorrowland was Tomorrowland, but I still think he's a great choice for a Superman movie. I like Christopher McQuarrie too, but I want Brad Bird so bad for a Superman movie. And if you're doing a Superman movie, it's got to be Henry Cavill, dang it, because I haven't necessarily loved all of his movies. I like Man of Steel. I hate Batman vs. Superman with every fiber of my being, and it just makes me sad. It makes me very depressed for Superman of how he's represented. But I think doing it like this, Superman, the Man of Steel, you wouldn't alienate the Snyder fans. You still say, yes, this happened. The Snyder trilogy or whatever it ends up being, that was Superman's origin. Now we've moved past that, and he can truly live the Superman life that he's supposed to. And we wouldn't have to change anything in his past, except for maybe, retcon the fact that Jimmy Olsen gets brutally murdered, but whatever. Michael, I know you've heard me rambling and raving about this for years now as the madman, but you down for this?
100%. I mean, the director alone, you sold me. I mean, I trust whoever they would cast, but Henry Cavill, I would agree. He's got the look, the part, the commitment. He has the drive to do it. I definitely can see this movie, like I can envision it like to a T. And it's funny that you actually mentioned the Iron Giant, because I will just get mine out of the way, because my number one would be a live action Iron Giant movie directed by Steven Spielberg.
Ooh,
and with Vin Diesel playing and reprising his role and doing mocap work for the Giant. Now this is 1950s Cold War era, so it's a period piece that I know Spielberg could do well. Like he'd actually get the look right, and that's what I think is like getting the look right, like the color gradient, the cinematography, as well as the effects. That's something I would trust with very few directors. I know Spielberg could do it very well, and he has a talent for making non-human entities like relatable, and so I would trust him with that. I'd have no idea the cast or his mom or Dean or Mansley. Or the general, I really don't. To me, that doesn't necessarily matter, because I think you got to get the director and you got to get Vin Diesel back. That is something. My parents, they showed that to me. It's one of the first movies I ever remember watching. I watched it on vacation on VHS, and my parents loved that movie. And my dad, for years, ever since I took an interest in film, he goes, "When are they going to make an Iron Giant 2? When are they going to make an Iron Giant 2? And he still teases me about it to this day. And, for me, it's something that is one of my favorite films of all time. And I would love to see a live action version of it. I think it could be very successful, too.
I almost completely forgot as you were talking. This dude lives on my desk at all times.
Oh, all right.
Yeah, like Iron Giant has to live at my desk at all times. I have the Iron Giant pop over here somewhere, which I'm still a little mad that the Iron Giant pop that came with Ready Player One is just the exact same one as regular Iron Giant. I'm like, you could have changed it a little bit or made him more metallic, but whatever. Mm-hmm. I'm down for that. I almost put that on my list, but I'm so emotionally attached to it that I just couldn't narrow it down. However, I do actually have Steven Spielberg on here. I debated between him and somebody else for a project, but you said Steven Spielberg's really good with making you care about extraterrestrial beings. While there's no extraterrestrial beings in this movie for me, he's also really, really well known for getting the most out of children and working with children a lot. And so, when I was a kid, I had a favorite book series that I have been crying to high heaven needs to be a movie or a TV series. And Netflix is reportedly developing a series, but Netflix drags their feet and cancels stuff left and right. So I think this would be better served as a movie. Maybe combine some books since they're all very, very short. But my next pick in my fantasy draft, directed by Steven Spielberg, The Magic Treehouse.
Ooh. Oh, boy. Okay, go. I'm already on board. I'll greenlight it. You want me to give you some money? Oh, my God.
Now, the problem is, our Jack and Annie, who is supposed to be like It's either 9 and 8 or 7 and 8. They're both very, very young. So the thing is, I don't know if there's any actors that out there currently. I think they would like discover some new talents. If I had to, though, I would probably say the actor, if I remember his name right, Ian Armitage, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, aka CBS's Young Sheldon as Jack. I see him for the role. Annie is supposed to be a year younger than him. I don't know if anybody is out there young enough for that. And they might have to age up the characters, but I need a Magic Tree House so bad. And also, I don't know if they would do justice to my Franklin Little Bear crossover that I've been screaming even longer about. And also, I couldn't think of a director for that. Quentin Tarantino.
Oh my.
Quentin Tarantino for Franklin Little Bear crossover. But please, I will sacrifice Magic Tree House for a Franklin Little Bear crossover. I will weep happy tears. But in all honesty, Magic Tree House is a gold mine of untapped potential. For those heathens that don't know what Magic Tree House is, it's basically these two kids that discover a treehouse with all these books inside. And so when they read them, they say, I wish we could go there. And via some special magic, they are transported to wherever it is. I didn't even make this connection. But, Michael, what's one of Steven Spielberg's most famous movies involving gigantic creatures?
I mean, gigantic creatures?
Mm-hmm.
Like, you're not talking about, like, are you talking about not live action?
What's his most famous movie that came out in 1993? Spawned a massive franchise.
This is really bad, isn't it? That I spawned a massive franchise from 1993.
It was the biggest movie of 1993. Pioneered. We clocked the T-Rex at 45 miles an hour.
Oh, okay, Jurassic Park. Okay, sorry.
Since Michael's brain isn't working, Steven Spielberg did Jurassic Park. Fun fact,
yes,
the very first book in the Magic Tree House series, Dinosaurs Before Dawn. I didn't even make this connection. You've got Steven Spielberg, who has worked with kids extensively and features children prominently in his stories. The first book is about dinosaurs. Come on, make it work. And as we go through we find out that the kids are actually working for Morgana Le Fay, not Morgan Le Fay. It's Morgan Le Fay, not Morgana. It was confusing when I discovered Morgan Le Fay is actually evil, because in the books she works with Merlin. It's retcon, but whatever. Maybe have the kids go to like this dinosaur world, go back in time. But the thing is, you don't have to. The wonderful thing about Magic Tree House is every single book they go to a different time period. They've gone to the Civil War. They've gone to the Amazon. My favorite was always the Christmas one where they fight dragons. This has unlimited potential, and it could be so much fun. Since they're not doing anything at all with the Narnia franchise, this could be a really, really fun thing, especially for younger kids.
Gosh. You're absolutely right. Oh my gosh! And would you picture like a period piece per film that they wouldn't jump multiple locations like Scooby-Doo and the Cyber Chase type of thing?
Or better yet, all the realities start crossing over into each other into our normal world. So you've got dinosaurs and Dinosaurs Before Dawn. Maybe the rainforest starts coming to them in Amazon at noon. Or like the world starts coming, like the reality starts collapsing in on itself, and they need to figure out the riddle that Morgan Le Fay left them to make everything go back to normal or something. There's just so much story potential.
Yeah.
There's 50 books to pick from, guys. It's not that hard.
Yeah, that would be pretty interesting. And if they do Dinosaurs Before Dawn, they could find themselves a baby dinosaur. Well, that's a fantastic pick. I doubt any of mine are going to rival as far as like that good of idea. Honestly, Nate, like that is a heavy hitter. My next pick, this is where we're going to get interesting here. So I got to go video game because you gave me free reign here.
Figured.
I am a Mass Effect fan through and through.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I know, right? It is an amazing franchise. Has an incredible lore, developed by BioWare. all from the ground up. And I think that's what makes it incredibly like impactful, is that they're not relying on any pre-existing material whatsoever. So I would love a Mass Effect series directed by Christopher McQuarrie, and the reason why is because he can direct action really well, and he has a lot of heart. In the Mission Impossible 5 and 6, there's a lot of character moments in there that they had no business being in an action movie. Honestly, they didn't really have a whole lot, and then in the sixth movie, they really got me because they really showed that Ethan Hunt had more of a heart. He still kept his conscience. That's what separated him from other people. And they actually got Ving Rhames to cry on screen because of a moment, that he had in Vulnerability. So there's a lot of heart to it, and it also requires a lot of action and use of practical effects. And I think they can be used well. But here is where I truly see it. This would be, he would be going out of a role that you wouldn't typically see, but he's got the charisma, he's got the looks, he's got the physique for it. But it would require a little bit more seriousness, which I think he could pull off. And I would really love to see a male version of Commander Shepard played by Chris Pratt. And I think he could do it really well. It's a big name, a little bit different, a little humor where need be, but incredibly charismatic. And that's exactly what Commander Shepard is. That put me down for it right now.
I don't know why, but when I see the limited time that I've spent in the world of Mass Effect, most of it coming secondhand from you, what I know, the limited knowledge that I have of Shepard, I don't know why, but John Hamm stands out to me as Shepard a lot. Maybe it's the physical, looks a lot like him, but I'd be down for John Hamm in that role.
Yeah, he definitely would come across in that way. I think maybe just possibly just a little too old. Maybe I know Shepard's supposed to be like in his mid-30s and kind of still younger, and then thrust into this massive leadership role. But yeah, I 100% see the look. I mean, the character model they did after like has the same look as John Hamm. So who's this? I don't care who they would necessarily cast. I think The Expanse has also shown us that it doesn't have to be a film either. That you can do sci-fi really well with a lot of great effects and tell an amazing story with a relatively unknown cast of characters and still have it be, a lot of fun. So, whatever. Here's to hoping.
Yeah, I kind of think Mass Effect would do really, really well as a series over a movie. But if they made a movie, I would not complain in the slightest. I'm going to continue on my out of left field pick by going with a biopic of all things. This is a biopic that I've been asking for a really long time. But once I say who it's about, you'll understand why it hasn't happened, because let's just say a certain company is probably going to put a veto on it and not want it to happen at all. Walt. I would just call it Walt. The early years of Walt Disney. Now, I know some of you are going to be like, but there was an early years of Walt Disney movie starring David Henry from Wizards of Waverly Place. No, that was made against Disney's permission. They did not approve of it. Also, it was really, really low budget and really, frankly, awful. I want a Walt Disney movie, and here's where it gets interesting for my book. It's going to be all about him making his first animation studio with some of his buddies, and we're going to end the movie with him on the train going to California, and on that train ride is when he draws Mickey Mouse for the first time, then known as Mortimer Mouse. We don't see him creating the parks or whatever else and creating this big, huge empire. We do the story small when he's still a young man, unsure of himself, and still figuring it out. And then we end it with him, okay, you're destined for great things. And who do I want to do this movie? Moneyball's Bennett Miller. I love me some Bennett Miller. I love Moneyball. And especially just describing the cinematography of Moneyball. It's like a homemade chicken noodle soup. It just makes you feel good when you're watching Moneyball. Even though it's a more serious movie, it just has this like comfort and ease to it. I don't have somebody for Walt Disney because I think it's so hard to do, especially if we're going to younger, like a 17 to a 19-year-old Walt Disney. I thought if he was older, maybe like Milo Ventimiglia from This Is Us, as long as it's not Tom Hanks, because God, he was awful in Saving Mr. Banks, and I will fight anybody who says otherwise. But I think there's a lot of interesting stuff in a often not talked about time in Walt Disney's life. And I know this movie will never happen because some big studio will veto that, and I wonder why. They don't want to show Walt Disney in his proper light of the man is not perfect. We need to stop pretending that he was. But that's what would make a biopic so interesting. What was his flaws? Where did he come from? Like, what was his life like when he suffered his biggest failure, when Oswald the Lucky Rabbit got taken away from him by Universal? What were those early days like when he was still green in the business world? What was his like in the early years working with iWorks before they went their separate ways? What was his like working with his brothers? Everyone always talks about the theme parks or the big budget movies. What was life like before Snow White, before everything else, before Mickey, before anything else? Have an actual studio and an actual director make this with actual talented people. No offense to the movie that did come out, but you're kind of a bootleg Disney movie that just no. I don't know. I think that's a character and an person that history knows a lot about, but doesn't know a lot about.
Yeah, that I don't, and I think that would be an amazing thing. I'm not a huge biopic fan, honestly. They're not really that intriguing to me. This one would be, though, because of the history and the impact on our greater culture, that I really would like to see that, especially going back. What an amazing tease of an ending, though. Like that would just give people chills. So I'm 100% on board, man. Like seriously, you're doing some good stuff here, and I like where you're going with these picks. I think they're better than mine, to be honest with you. If I'm being objective here.
I spend way too much time doing this, dude. When I'm bored, I'm just like, you know what would be cool? Let's mash stuff together and see what would be a good fit, even though it'll never happen.
Sure. Well, for me, this is tied to a little bit of Michigan history. And so
8 Mile too.
That's funny. So there was Michigan. We're the Great Lakes state. We have our Great Lakes here, and we have a lot of freighters on the Great Lakes. And these freighters carry iron ore and other raw materials all the way from like Wisconsin, Minnesota, Canada, Michigan. And one of the greatest maritime disasters that we had in the state of Michigan was the loss of the Edmund Fitzgerald, which was a 1,000-foot freighter that was lost on November 10th, 1975. We actually had a song called "The Wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald" that came out a year later by Gordon Lightfoot, that talks about the loss of all hands, unfortunately. And I've been to the Great Lakes Shipwreck Museum, which is just located just offshore by a few miles, or it's onshore, and the wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald is only a few miles offshore from that particular landmark. And there's a book that was written called "The Gales of November," which talks about the massive storms on Lake Superior. Lake Superior, if you don't know, is the biggest freshwater lake by surface area in the entire world. And we just have it right here in Michigan, where I'm from. And Lake Superior is a cold freshwater lake. It's deep, it's huge, and it gets a lot of storms. And it broke this freighter apart, and all lives were lost, unfortunately. And after seeing the movie in 2016, Deepwater Horizon, I saw what Peter Berg can do for a natural disaster film, really capturing a lot of the kind of the horror elements, along with just the atmosphere of that movie was just unbelievable, seeing IMAX. And why not? Why not bring back Mark Wahlberg as well? They've done amazing films together. I can see Mark Wahlberg playing like a deckhand, and kind of having the same ending as he did in Eye of the Storm, of course. But it wouldn't be the first time he'd be trapped and left to drown. But that would be just something that I personally would see from my state, because it was just just a tribute to maybe educate the rest of the world. Like, this thing happened. Here's what Michigan history was. Here's a landmark event that happened here, and that we have in a museum. So it could add to tourism. It can just add to the memories of those who were lost. Coming up on, it will be 50 years here in a few years. So that's what I'd lobby for, because every Michigander, for the most part, knows about that story. It's heartbreaking, and we just passed its anniversary here. So that's something I was thinking about.
Interesting. If it's done well, I'm always down for historical movies. It's just my thing is always I need it to be historically accurate. And sometimes that doesn't always happen because you still need narrative dramatic tension, and that may not have actually been there in a historical context. But that I think could be a really interesting tragedy.
Yeah.
I have my only horror movie. I'm not going to go into my full The Mummy pitch because I'm sitting on that one for something special because that's been festering in my brain for a while. I have another classic Universal monster pitch that we kind of delved into a little bit a few months back with Josh about something. One of the Universal monsters that hasn't gotten a lot of recognition or isn't as well regarded. There's the special trinity. He's one of the special trinity that I always think of. Frankenstein, Dracula, the Wolfman. Now I know we are getting a Wolfman directed by Leigh Whannell, who did The Invisible Man, starring Ryan Gosling. Screw that. I like Leigh Whannell and I like Ryan Gosling. That's not where I would go. I would go The Wolfman, directed by The Lighthouse and the Witches, Robert Eggers. So what Robert Eggers really, really nails is this sense of tone and he nails the time period of wherever he is doing it. Of like The Witch, you feel like you're in early colonial America. The Lighthouse, I don't know what I was watching during that, but it felt so surreal and I felt that world and everything, every frame of it was so surreal and I felt in that world so much. With The Wolfman, I would set it in those old Gothic times, like the Benicio del Toro one, but with Robert Eggers' flair for tone and ambiance, I think it would be perfect. But also, he's shown with The Witch, you don't necessarily have to show the monster to be scary. The thing with The Witch is, for like 90% of the movie, you don't know if there actually is a real witch or not. It's just a lot of people pointing the finger at each other in fear. I think that would work absolutely perfectly with a Wolfman movie of there's a bunch of heinous, brutal murders taking place around an old city or whatever, and a man, played, of course, because it's me, and I needed to fit him somewhere in today's video, played by Warriors Joel Edgerton, because for those that have seen him, he could be the nice guy like he is in Warrior, but he could also be the villain like he is in It Comes at Night. He's a man that thinks he might somehow be responsible, but he doesn't know, and he slowly starts to lose his mind, and the movie won't make it clear if it's actually a wolf that's attacking people or if it's some man making it seem like a wolf is attacking people, creating this paranoia within the town, this unease, this almost like The Thing of don't trust your neighbor because they might be the one that'll kill you in your sleep. It looks like a wolf is attacking people on paper, but if it's like The Witch, there's still this ambiguity of I don't know, and it's, I think, scarier if we don't know and see the descent of a good man basically into insanity is a lot more terrifying than look out for the hairy thing that's going to claw my eyes out. Just as aesthetic for The Witch, The Lighthouse, performance by Joel Edgerton, I think this would be fantastic. I know he wants to do a remake of Nosferatu, which I think would be just as great. But if that doesn't happen, oh man, I would love to see his take on Wolfman, if nothing else, for just the scenery in that movie alone.
Yeah, that is very intriguing, and like your description of the fact that like you maybe don't see it. I mean, that's why I love the first Alien film so much, is that you don't really know what you're looking at. You're like, okay, that's really creepy. What is that? Oh my gosh, okay, it's gone. And the idea that you can be questioning, like, is this a supernatural like type of horror film, or is this just a slasher? And you don't really know, and you can play with the audience's expectations and maybe kind of distort reality a little bit, but it doesn't have to be completely out of nowhere. I think that's very, very compelling. Again, you see the stuff that you describe and like you would like, it sounds so much better than what is. Like a lot of the whole horror genre I don't like, because a lot of it's just presentation. It's not concept. It's presentation. And
well, I think you're just looking in the wrong spot. Admittedly, with horror, you do have to sift through a lot of garbage. Sometimes the garbage is fun. McDonald's is not good for you, but sometimes you crave McDonald's.
Yeah.
You could go to Outback just as easily, but sometimes you crave McDonald's. Horror's the same way. It's just picking up on the good stuff. So that's what I would like to see. Michael, you got one or two left.
I have two left.
Okay, hit me back to back with them, and I'll close out with
okay.
mine that you'll like my last one.
This one's a little obscure, but I have got to go with a Star Wars film, and it's particularly by this director because after watching Argo,
Ooh.
I was sold on Ben Affleck as a director. Absolutely sold. I would love to see a Darth Revan movie solely on Revan, basically following the plot of Knights of the Old Republic, something with Knights of the Old Republic. I know we're getting someone with the Old Republic or the High Republic. I don't care. Revan is my favorite Star Wars character of all the movies, books, video games, TV shows of all time. It's not even close. It's my favorite Star Wars story, and I think you got to have somebody imposing as well as charismatic. I went back and forth, but because of the acting talent and maybe what the more darker, more a more mature director of a Ben Affleck, I would love to see what he could get out of like a Chris Hemsworth and playing a Revan, because Hemsworth has the physique for it, but also he is a good actor. But I think again, maybe taking some of these Marvel actors and putting them in a role that's a little bit different, I think it'd be very good. I think it'd be really cool, and somebody who can play this lost and confused soul, but also kind of go with a little bit of anger. I see that as a Chris Hemsworth. I don't know. Maybe that's a bad star acting role. But as far as a director, what do you think about Ben Affleck in Star Wars?
Ben Affleck in just about anything, I'm totally down for. Like, I'm excited for the Matt Reeves Batman. Obviously, no one squealed louder when he said, "I'm vengeance." That makes it. I do feel a little bad that we will never get the Ben Affleck Batman movie. That was supposed to happen with him being stuck in Arkham Asylum. That sounded really, really cool because Ben Affleck is a phenomenal director. I love Argo. I love The Town. The Town has one of my favorite scenes ever of, I can't tell you who or why, but we gotta hurt some people. And then Jeremy Renner just looks at him for a little bit. Whose car are we taking? Like, that's ride or die, man. That's fantastic. Ben Affleck is an amazing director. I don't know if I see with Star Wars, but it's not so much he just hasn't done anything Star Wars before. I don't really put them together. That being said, good directing is good directing. It shouldn't matter the genre or the franchise label attached to it. If you're a good director, your talent will shine through. So anything Ben Affleck, either acting, why don't you have Ben Affleck himself beat Revan?
Yeah, maybe. I actually thought about that. I just don't think the look is there for it. But I don't know. I just think if you give Ben Affleck the role of director, put him with Revan, I think good things are going to happen. Then I'll quickly wrap up. I don't actually have a title. This is just making up my own film. After seeing Molly's Game and knowing what he could do with like the Newsroom and the West Wing, I trust in the writing and directing of Aaron Sorkin. I would like a geopolitical film that something that's it's more of a thriller, kind of like if you've seen like Miss Sloane, which was kind of like a domestic type of political thriller, a little bit, and it wasn't very good, but I like that kind of the concept. But something that has more worldwide implications, but starring Letitia Wright, maybe as a woman kind of thrust into a position where maybe she's just an up and coming like careerist, or she's an intern and she gets access to privatized information, and she's given a choice. Like, she has either got to report this, but who does she report this information to? Because lo and behold, this information contains a very compromising details on something, but she doesn't know who to trust. And so maybe as she kind of maybe crisscrosses the globe, maybe on the run, kind of like maybe kind of like an enemy of the state type of idea. But like, if I had to pitch it, maybe like a Miss Sloane / Enemy of the State / Jason Bourne, but not. I don't want like action. I don't want like a Jason Bourne action film, but I want stuff that's like more realistic on the ground. And I think Aaron does a very good job through dialogue of like his action is dialogue, and I think he sets it up really well. And I'm a fan of Letitia Wright. I just want to see her in more things. And having that perspective and that type of approach to a role with somebody like her, where maybe you can start out in the UK, or she's here from the UK and then she gets involved with the American politics. I don't know, something of that sort. I think it'd be really cool.
So I don't know why, but I know Aaron Sorkin stuff. Part of the reason I love Moneyball so much.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but so Joker was a big success. Go with me here. Joker was a big success, made $1 billion. DC has talked about doing more stuff under the black label of like more villain origin stories, like a Joker, like a Mr. Freeze. I'm not gonna lie, if we had cast with somebody else, but a Lex Luthor origin movie of how he becomes president with all of his crime and corruption written by Aaron Sorkin,
Ooh.
I would played
Wow, that's pretty good.
Played by Bryan Cranston as Lex Luthor.
Oh man, what a thing to just throw out of nowhere. That would be amazing.
Yeah.
Wow.
Right?
Your list still beats mine. What do you got for your last one?
I saved the one that I think Michael will like the most for last. And I'm sure I think some of you will at home. Y'all liked Bumblebee, right? That was the franchise saver for Transformers. I need more Travis Knight in my life. And Travis Knight, to me, is one of the only names that I would trust for one of my most beloved childhood movies that I desperately have wanted to be remade. Treasure Planet.
Yes.
Directed by Travis Knight.
Yes.
I don't have a Jim Hawkins because he's so hard to cast. I don't think we've discovered that actor yet because Jim, he's not a teen. He's almost borderline full-on adult in the movie, in the way he's drawn, the way he acts. But he clearly is still not mature enough. That's why he lashes onto the father figure of Long John, who I have him cast. I went with somebody a little unconventional. Of typically you have like a portly white guy as as Long John. This time, I went with somebody that I've seen both absolutely terrifying, but also I've seen him be a good guy. I've seen him be both. I want Idris Elba as Long John Silver.
Oh.
That voice alone can be both terrifying as it was as Shere Khan in the Jungle Book. That was, oh God. But also, he's been a good guy. You get behind him as Heimdall in Thor. He's been a good person. He's got this. I think he can be both good and bad. He can be menacing, like Long John needs to be. But also, I could see him being the father figure type character to Jim Hawkins that he so desperately needs. And Travis Knight, look at Bumblebee. Bumblebee is a fantastic reboot to the Transformers franchise, but at its core, it's a story about growing up. That's exactly what Treasure Planet is as well. It's, let's go find the special space treasure planet. It's also about a boy becoming a man and the arc that he undergoes of Jim Hawkins' arc in Treasure Planet is phenomenal, of the moody, angsty teen that wears all dark colors, and at the end, clean-shaven, wonderful, good-hearted, kind young man that wears all light colors at the end. Notice that wardrobe change in the movie when you go back and watch it. Also, the effects in Bumblebee look outstanding, and there's such a unique visual style with Treasure Planet of like 50-50 of old colonial mixed with modern sci-fi that I would love to see those combined on the big screen. I think Travis Knight is a phenomenal director between Bumblebee and Kubo and the Two Strings. Again, Travis Knight, like Dan Trachtenberg earlier, also was attached to Uncharted, and I'm really sad we lost him, but I still trust Ruben Fleischer. I think Travis Knight would be fantastic for Treasure Planet, and why Disney keeps dragging their feet on remakes that we don't want to see, like Cruella de Vil, or Peter Pan, or Lilo and Stitch, when there's actually live-action ones that we want to see, like Treasure Planet, like Atlantis. I want Treasure Planet, and I would be so on board with Travis Knight, and I would be so be on board with Idris Elba, of all people, for Long John.
Yeah, what an amazing film choice. That was one of my favorite films growing up, and just the idea with where technology has come, they easily could do a film like that and just make it look stunning. What an amazing choice. Your list, I think, as a fantasy draft would get many more votes than I. Seriously, wonderful job, man. This was an amazing topic. I had a lot of fun coming up with these films, and I guess my question, you know your list, and let me just run down mine. I just have to ask you this as we close tonight. If you had to guess the reality, like what is more likely, like the highest likely film, I'll get rid of my hypothetical, but a Revan by Ben Affleck, Wreck of the Evan Fitzgerald, that historical drama by Peter Berg, a Mass Effect film with Christopher McQuarrie, or a live action Iron Giant, and then mixed with yours, what one do you think is most likely to be made?
Looking at my list, I think the most likely would be Magic Treehouse by Steven Spielberg.
Okay, yeah,
I think that'd be the most likely, and then probably Superman starring Henry Cavill, but probably not with Brad Bird. Is probably
sure.
my next one.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, like those definitely seem more realistic. I mean, Magic Treehouse, like seriously, man, you're listed. I'd really struggle about rating like anticipation. So wonderful job, sir. You've won this round, I think, handily. But thank you again for having me back this week. And quick question: what are you doing for Thanksgiving? What are you guys doing at all?
I don't think we're doing anything too special. I don't believe. I'm only off on Thanksgiving. College basketball kicks in, so I'm going to be super busy with work this week. Like we've got about 50 to 60 games a day, so it's going to be real interesting. But I think it's going to be a pretty quiet Thanksgiving. What about you? You got anything?
I'm trying to go through the rest of the Ocean's films maybe when I'm just chilling by myself, and then just hanging out with some family. But I will just say, lamenting, of course, that I won't be doing normal things or seeing a normal film in theaters since we're all closed down again here in Michigan. But no, but thank you very much, pal. I seriously, I wish you a happy Thanksgiving to you and Heather. And here's to another week of movie news and anticipation for maybe some of our films.
Indeed. Well, I guarantee you, this is a lot of fun. I highly doubt this will be the last time we do a fantasy movie, Jeff, because I do this way too much. I want others to suffer as well. So suffer along with us, why don't you? Also, if you had an unlimited budget, studios can't say no to you, what would be some movies that you would make, and who would you have make them? Let us know in the comments below. We always like hearing from you guys. And as always, if you like what you hear and you want to hear more, subscribe to us on whatever audio platform you're listening to us on, whether it's iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts, or YouTube. And if you haven't already, subscribe to us on YouTube at Uncharted Media. And now you can also find any of the individual news topics that we talk about as their own separate videos. If you don't want to sit around for the whole podcast episode, but you want to hear a specific topic, you can find that now on the YouTube channel as well. And as always, stay sharp, movie guys and gals.